Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And today we bring you a Spurs chat. We have a lot to get through today. You know, is Antonio Conte start any different to Nuno start? Tottenham give up possession in midfield. Can we keep playing like that? So much more to get through, and we'll also be talking about, and we'll start with Chelsea's pursuit of Gvardiol and Tottenham's pursuit of Dan James. Of course, we are joined by co-host Jack, Ben from We Are Talking TV, and Sean from Spurs Talk Show. Jack, how are you, my man?
Keeping okay, Dave. We'll see how we all survive, this transfer window. It's actually getting a bit hotter and heavier, and, probably not in the way that Spurs fans probably would have wanted. We want to see Spurs, kind of linked with the big name players. Looks like, other clubs are dipping into the big name players right now. Hopefully, Paratici, the Don, Dave, who's still a Don no matter what, has a surprise, unveiled for us at the end of the season. Even Benji asked, Paratici if there's some transfers, I think, in Israel, left over. So hopefully, it gives us a present.
I hope so. And how are you keeping, Benji?
All good, my man. All good. Unbeaten so far, the start of the season, ready to burst some bubbles tomorrow night. So let's go.
Can't wait. I cannot wait. It's the Irish Hotspur derby. It's going to be absolutely sensational. I hope they catch me if you can, Benji. That's what's there.
They're going to be watching you tonight, Dave. They're going to be watching you.
Oh, of course they will. But you bet them bubble enthusiasts, they'll be all over me this week. That's why I hope they catch me if you can. But Sean, how are you keeping, my man?
It should be cap me if you can, given West Ham's. I'm good, mate. I'm good. Yeah, happy to be back on the show. Lots to talk about, and generally I'm in good spirits. So thanks for having me.
No, good. But look, we won't waste any time, Jacko. Let's get straight into it, my man.
Love Sean's intro. Absolutely efficient. I'll take notes from that one. But so maybe we'll give it to Sean, first with how efficient that was. Gvardiol to Chelsea for 90 million euros, joining in June 2023. It was sort of a player that seemed to be kind of off the market to me, Sean, and now Chelsea have put in that bid that I guess was sort of, irrefusable or, unrefusable, whatever the word is for Chelsea. It looked like he was going to be kind of a release clause battle like Holland, I think, was in the Bundesliga. He was going to have some 60 million euro release clause that every Premier League club would have battled for. But Chelsea got him early. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a tough one to start with, mate. It's
On the back already, Sean.
Listen, mate, I'm devastated. He was one of the he was probably more of my favourite, of all the guys in the summer ahead of Bastoni. So look, if you
felt like he was going to be one we would be competing for in the summer,
Yeah, so did I. But I guess it's a case of if you snooze, you lose, and you have to take your hat off a little. On one hand, you have to take your hat off to Todd Boehly. He's come in and made an absolute splash, like a tsunami.
This done, by the way, is this done?
I don't know. Well, no, it's not done. It's not. Here we go. No,
okay.
It's
the way we're talking, we're like a funeral here. It's like it's done or something.
Yeah, true. That's true.
We get ahead of ourselves. This is common,
if it's done. Then it's part of what looks to be the biggest Chelsea transfer window ever. They by the end of it, they could have spent about $500 million. I think they've massively overpaid for all the players that they bought. Generally, I don't see them paying value for money, but I think it's just crazy money. But look, he's a great player, and they've now secured, if he does come in, and if Fofana's agreed as well, which it looks like it is, then they've secured their centre back partnership until I'm about 50 years old. So it's disappointing that we don't get him, but it is what it is, right? Best I can say about it.
Yeah. Ben, your initial thoughts, of course, this probably has just been thrown, in front of your face, maybe this bit of news, but Gvardiol perhaps joining Chelsea the following summer, so not this season, but the following summer for maybe a bit above, that guaranteed release clause.
Yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's frustrating. It's very frustrating when you're looking at the targets that we started off with this summer. Everyone was talking about this right wing back and this left centre back, and Gvardiol and Bastoni are at the forefront of that left centre back thing, and it's very frustrating that he's going to end up, if he ends up at Chelsea. But I'm still trying to just concentrate on what Spurs have done and what Spurs are doing, and I think we're on a good track here. So I'm going to try and not let it bother me too much.
Yeah, I'd like to think, we are in a different situation than Chelsea is. I know Chelsea are sort of, obviously, related to having, big, kind of spending in the summer, but they did have a lot of squad turnover. They did have a lot of old players they were sort of getting rid of, just a ton of squad turnover, and they were in a different situation, I think, than us. Then again, though, a lot of Spurs fans have called out for that defense to be upgraded. And I think there have even been videos released recently saying, Dyer perhaps was a player that was, ignored in terms of, having an upgrade or having, a competition. So even people that aren't Spurs fans have acknowledged that defense could have maybe had a bit of a extra boost perhaps in the transfer market. But then again, still time left. But Dave, your thoughts on Gvardiol, a player that I thought was sort of off the market, and I guess Chelsea, put in, a bid that was they couldn't refuse.
Southampton have just scored. Sorry.
Come on. Love that. Love that. Hey,
save me. On the ground. He has the earphones in. One's for the panel, the other is for the, what's going on the ground.
I'll be keeping you updated all through the night, guys. Don't worry.
Good job. Love that. Do you know what? For me, Jack, as soon as I seen it, felt like sitting in a dark room and probably curling up in a ball and crying for a little while, if I'm being honest. I mean, this is the guy that would help us out from set pieces defensively and help us playing out from the back. I think he'd be an ideal candidate for Tottenham Hotspur. Look, whatever, I don't know what happened. We went looking. We basically didn't think we had the financial capabilities to get that deal over the line. Look, I'm not going to sit here and lie. It is disappointing, but at the end of the day, I've stated I trust in Fabio Paratici and Antonio Conte, and I'm going to continue to trust in it. Look, we always look at what other clubs are doing. You can say there's an element to it, but, people weren't happy with our window last January. Same thing, no ambition, it's not good enough, this, that, and the other. We've signed rejects, But at the end of the day, it was good enough to get us top 4. So I would just trust in what we're doing. I trust in the plan. I think since Paratici has got here, especially since Conte has come in, this club has gone from Europa Conference League, which we could have been a lot worse, and we're up back in Champions League and hopefully catching or getting closer to Man City and Liverpool this time round. So for me, look, it's a crying shame we've missed out, but it is what it is at the end of the day. If Conte doesn't think he needs centre-backs, well, I trust him.
Where I'm a bit disappointed is that I thought these sort of center backs like Bastoni, Gvardiol, they seem off the table. They were going to be, probably accepting bids the following summer. It seemed like, we had to, look elsewhere. Perhaps Spurs were so steadfast on those two. They were willing to wait, the following summer, or willing to wait till January, whatever it was. But Chelsea did sort of give in that offer that a lot of Spurs fans have asked Spurs to do in the past, which is give an offer they can't refuse, kind of give an offer that is, above market rate, that a club like, I don't think RB Leipzig really need the money, but they probably looked at that offer as well above, their asking price, and they took it. And it'd be nice, to see Spurs do something similar, but it does show that you could, probably throw in a bid that is well above market rate, and these sort of clubs might accept it. And we've learned our lesson maybe in this regard. At the same time, 90 million euros for Gvardiol, it is a huge fee. They've spent plenty on that defense. They probably needed to spend plenty on that defense. I think we should have spent at least, a bit more on our defense. I'll agree with plenty of, skeptics of the transfer window on that part. But then again, like you said, Dave, there are other elements of the transfer window that I think people are probably ignoring, plenty of the positives. And one of them even being Richarlison, in the way that we probably outsplash the cash, in that regard. We may be overpaid for Richarlison, but the way that he's come in for us, I think he's looked every worth, 60 million with how little he's even played and, what he's brought, even in terms of media attention. But now I think I'm going on plenty of tangents here, but it is a big loss. And it is sort of a player I thought that was off the market. And apparently he is sort of on the market. He is going to be joining them in June, the following season, but they clearly, kind of skipped that, big, battle for that release clause. I think it was going to be a big release clause sort of battle that Spurs maybe fancied themselves in. I guess they sort of kind of bypassed that. Chelsea.
I just hope it means we have something lined up for January, Jack. I just hope that maybe Bastoni, we're putting all our eggs in his basket, and maybe we feel he's attainable in January and we might go for there. That's my only hope or salvation from this. Gvardiol, look, I've said it all summer long. Botman, De Ligt to Bayern Munich, there's plenty of players we could have tried to attempt to get that. We probably just let go without going after, and it's a bit annoying. It is a bit annoying. Anyway, to move on to the super chats, and then
but surely there's got to be more centre backs about apart from these ones that we've been linked to and stuff like that. There's got to be more. There's a big scouting network that we've just taken on as well as new head scout and stuff like that. Surely there's more options there.
Feels like we've been a bit picky in that department, actually, the center back department, whereas other areas perhaps not as picky, you could say. And to be honest, the center back department is where Dave and plenty of other people really wanted there to be, major improvement, and probably just wanted somebody to come in. But then again, still time. Dark Sun G says, let's go unbeaten until international break. I gave you my predictions, Dark Sun G. I think we'll be for the most part, expecting wins until we come up against Man City. But we have actually more Premier League wins, I think, against Man City than actually any other club. So since the official Barclays Premier League, I think, has started, I believe we actually have had more wins against Man City than any other club in the Premier League. So like we always say, we wish we could play them every week. Dark Sun G, pick yourself up. William Kelly says, lied to again by Ina, can't match wages and can't match transfer fees. Small club mentality, but everything's good. We'll get Jan James. But don't worry, Conte has been backed. BS. To be fair, William Kelly, just to challenge quickly, I think Conte did say, in one press conference, if he felt like he was being lied to, if he felt like, something had been betrayed between him and the ownership or him and the board, he would walk and he would, voice his complaints. But we haven't really seen him do that in any manner whatsoever. And if we do get that replacement for Brian Hill, I guess that's what he's asked for, is any player that leaves, we replace. And Tanganga didn't leave. I think we should have upgraded on Tanganga, but it's at least on Conte's side, from what we can tell, perhaps, he's hiding something, but he hasn't shown any sort of displeasure, unless I'm wrong. But I don't know, Ben, what do you think here? Am I wrong in that case? He hasn't exactly shown any Scotty Parker, kind of like, signs of disdain.
No, I think it's a weird one, because I think coming into this transfer window, when everyone heard about the 150 million, everyone thought this window would probably go a bit different to what it would gone. And I think that it started off really well and buying all these players, and everyone's like, wow, we really are going to make a net spend of 150 million this summer. But clearly that's not the plan. Clearly the plan is still to look for clever opportunities in the market and stuff like that. Net spend so far, I think, is around 65 million. So in terms of the fan base's expectations, I don't think it's been matched this transfer window. But has it matched Antonio Conte's ambitions and stuff for this season? The way he's reacting to it and the way he seems, I think it has. So I'm going to back Antonio Conte on this one. And if he's happy with the window, then I'm going to be happy with the window.
Sean, have you seen any, signs of displeasure or disdain, from Conte? Do you think he is feeling okay? I know I'm, asking you to be a psychologist here on the transfer window, but what are your thoughts? How does Conte feel maybe?
Yeah, I agree with everything Ben just said. I think 100% the fans are, have their own expectations. There was never any real indication of with any specificities, at least, of what the money was for. We still haven't taken the other £50 million tranche. We've got 50 million quid left. As far as I understood it, when the announcement was made, we have until the end of the year, and I think it's the end of it could be the end of the financial year, which is in January, but it's also, in my opinion, it's the end of this year, so December the 31st to take it. But once you've taken it, it doesn't mean you have to spend it. So you can just leave it on Tottenham's books. Right now, it's sat in the Enix accounts, and it will stay there. And so there's still that likelihood we're going to get it. Has it matched the expectations? No, but I agree with everything Ben just said. One other thing I would say, just to try and put a positive spin on everything, is I was talking about this earlier on today. Spending money is by no means a guarantee of success. Of course, it helps. It aids in that direction. But there's plenty and plenty of examples, very recent examples of teams that have gone big or gone home and are likely to go, like, Everton, 600 million quid down the pan. They're going to be very fortunate if they stay up this year. Aston Villa, massive summer transfer window last summer, massive in January, big again this summer, and they can't buy a win, right? So, and obviously you look at the big one, Manchester United spent £1 billion and haven't got anywhere that near what the expectations of their fans are, all the while the Glazers taking money out of the club and not paying down the debt. So there's plenty of examples of situations where clubs have spent a fortune in order to satisfy the fans, and it hasn't worked out. And to the question specifically, I think that, yes, I think Conte seems to be more satisfied than the average fan. And just like Ben said, if Conte's happy, then I'm happy.
To be fair to William Kelly, I like your point there, Sean. To be fair to William Kelly, though, probably the only transfer we've really, splashed the cash, so to speak, is really Richarlison. I think, the rest of them happen, kind of smartly done, cleverly done, which is in true Spurs fashion. But we wanted, a bit less of that, I could say, this transfer window. I'm pretty sure William Kelly did as well. Big up William Kelly. Joseph says the club pushed out that the center back was a priority, and once again, it has not really been addressed. If they are going to wait till next summer, then why don't you get Bastoni and have him join in the next summer? We could have probably structured a deal like that, seeing that Chelsea were able to find a way. It does show that maybe unorthodox deals are sort of kind of available, or kind of unique deals are available. But Dave, maybe go to you here this time. The center back, or at least the left-sided center back, was a big priority for Spurs. I guess kind of addressed with, the Longley loan deal, but, a lot of Spurs fans kind of feel unconvinced, the center back has not been bolstered.
I would say Longley was one of the contingency plans that we're seeing banded around today for Dan James. Look, what I will say is I'm not happy. I do think the centre-back position has been neglected since Toby and Jan have been gone. I think Dyer, Sanchez and Davies have all been the beneficiary of us not doing enough in that department. I think, look, at the end of the day, keeping out goals was a problem under Poch near the end. It was a problem under Jose Mourinho. It was a problem under Nuno. It's sort of been a problem under Conte, but maybe not as much recently. So, look, I think it's glaringly obvious that this club is crying out for a better defence. I think, you make that statement, centre-back signing, and that, I think, even bringing in someone like a Bastoni, I think, first of all, you send out a message to your rivals saying we're here, we mean business, we're ambitious, but it also had the same effect that Virgil van Dijk had on Liverpool, Ruben Diaz had on City. And I would like to see us push the ball out. But with Bastoni, I think we're playing cool. You got to remember, there's no point in putting in a bid for a player that does not want to leave Inter Milan. He's an Inter Milan fan. Now, what I think we might be doing, and this is my hope, that we're waiting until January, because in January, he only has a year and a half left on his contract, which then it becomes decision time for him and decision time for Inter Milan, because if they don't get him tied up to a new contract before next summer, he will be half the price of his original value. So for me, I'm hoping we're maybe playing the long game, because we have to remember, this guy also stayed at Tottenham Hotspur away over the course of the summer when he was on international duty with Italy. How do we know someone at the club hasn't spoke to him, realizes he doesn't want to leave Inter, and because he's our number one target and Conte really wants him, that we're not going to put in a bid and piss him off and piss Inter Milan off and upset everything? I'm hoping we're playing this one smart and wait until January. Do I agree with it? I would like to see another one come in this window, I can't lie, but at the same time, I've also accused the club before of, not getting their first choice and getting 5th, 6th, 7th down the line, which is why we're sitting there with some of the players that we've accumulated over the last couple of years that were dragging this club down. So in that regard, I'm happy for us to wait for our first choice if we have to wait till January. Correct me if I'm wrong, but is that not big club behaviour? That's what Liverpool done with Virgil van Dijk.
Yeah, that's true. I'm only speculating here with Gvardiol, but Leipzig haven't started off, I think, as well as people probably thought they would. I think they only have 5 points after 4 games by the looks of things. They've, kind of dropped points to some teams they really shouldn't be. Leipzig, they've probably seen, the situation here that they aren't going to be competing for that Bundesliga title, because I think if anybody's going to ever compete with Bayern, you kind of probably have to start, 4 wins from 4, and they haven't done that. They're perhaps just cashing in, now on Gvardiol, given that their season isn't maybe going to go as well as they probably thought initially it would. And I guess Chelsea have kind of taken advantage of that. And we kind of wish Spurs, did something similar in a situation. But I think in the case of Bastoni, like you said, Dave, an Inter fan, as well as competing for a title that he actually missed out on last season, perhaps a different situation. But, fans like Sean here, they actually wanted Gvardiol even more. And, a lot of Spurs, kind of pundits or, people who were kind of had the inside scoop on Spurs did say Gvardiol was like a close second option, if not first option. So we could have probably jumped on that situation similar to Chelsea.
I agree with what Joseph is saying here, but what I will say is there has to be a willingness on the player's behalf to be able to want to come to you for us to be able to make that deal. And if he doesn't want to leave Inter, like he stated, like his agent has stated multiple times, because he's an Inter fan and he doesn't want to ruin the relationship with the club or the fans, but then we can't conclude a deal like that.
Can I also just quickly jump in and say, I don't know what the size of Chelsea's squad is, that they've got enough room so late on to be trying to do the deals to finish for Fofana, for Gvardiol, for maybe De Jong, maybe Aubameyang. But Tottenham have got a chock-a-block squad, and we've struggled this summer to move the players on that we've tried to, right? And I think one of the problems is, sometimes I think we've had 17 players either coming in or going out. I know people point to Nottingham Forest as an example of a team that's done more, but they obviously needed to do everything they could in order to give themselves the best chance of staying up. Tottenham have struggled, I think, to remove some of the deadwood from our club that we've had from legacy years. And I think that needs to be taken into consideration as well. If we were to bring somebody in now, we need to move somebody on. The Japet Tanganga deal has broken down because Milan didn't want to pay the salary or the obligation to buy or whatever it was, because half of Europe is, or most of Europe is broke, right? That the teams just don't have the money to pay. And you'd be silly for Tottenham to kind of write off assets to that point, because that would just absorb a lot of the money as well, right? So I think a lot of people, not only did we expect to see the £150 million being spent, which hasn't happened, but on top of that, I think a lot of people were also factoring in that we would easily be able to have 100 million quid's worth of sales going out, but none of that's happened with the exception of Bergwijn. So I think everyone needs to. There are nuances. There is context to why the window's been a bit frustrating, and this policy of loaning players out, all it really does is kick the can down the road to another. Next summer we're going to have to spend a lot of time trying to get rid of Ndombele, Lo Celso again, and we're still going to have those numbers that come back in. So it's a frustration, but it's just the reality of the situation that started long before Paratici came in. So I think
in that case, we're betting on them playing well, which is in some cases we don't think we will. We don't think they will. Yeah,
I just think that a lot of people were going to give Paratici a harder time, but he's trying to fix the decisions that were made, that were poor decisions made by Hitchin before him, and by Levy or whoever you want to blame. And consequently, I think there should be a little bit more rope given the fact that it's so difficult to move on some of this dross.
He's got to do the cooking as well as the cleaning, Sean. I think we said that in the past, if I'm not mistaken. Big up, Joseph. And I think a lot of Spurs fans agree with you there, Joseph. Big up, brother. But we're going to dive into something a bit untransfer related, should I say. A little bit of a tactical sort of discussion. Maybe discuss how these 4 games have gone for Spurs, and how these pundits here, or panelists, whatever they want to be, Sean and, Benji here, what they kind of have thought of these first 4 games. Because Dave and I have been, doing the watch-alongs together. We've seen lots of different conclusions and lots of different opinions with how we should probably look at these 4 games. So we thought we kind of, take a look at it. With the unconvincing performances, this season, lads, it has, been probably remarked that Spurs are, actually experiencing the best start we've ever had in the last 12 years. In fact, an even better one than Pochettino had when he actually got, second in the Premier League. But considering they haven't been the most convincing of performances, what do you think, Ben? Has it been a bit lucky or has it been deserved?
No, I think it's been deserved. I think even in the games where you say we haven't played well, and we've still got a much higher XG than the opposition team, when you're looking at the chances actually being created. Look at this game on the weekend, against Nottingham Forest. They had an XG of 0.8 or something, and we had an XG of over 2.5 goals. So You're talking at a team that aren't playing well, but are still creating a lot of chances, and are also, keeping the opposition somewhat at bay, at not really taking too many shots on our goal. So I think the only way is up from here, and I think once we click, then we can be a scary opposition for anyone to face, to be honest. And I think the way that it's going now, with us not really getting into gear. I mean, it seems as though we've seemed to have forgotten how to pass and build up play, and instead of all we're doing at the moment is hitting teams on the transition and on the breaks and stuff like that. And I think once we get into our rhythm, I think we'll be okay, even though we're seeming to be okay even now when we're a bit disjointed.
A really good answer and really good starting point there, Ben. Sean, your thoughts, in kind of the start of the campaign, the best start in 12 years, but it hasn't been, 4-0, 3-0 and whatnot everywhere. It's been a bit different than that.
Yeah, there's so many ways to kind of view the
Southampton.
Oh,
come on,
there you go.
Come on. There's so many ways to view the start of the window. I personally have gone back and forth. I've actually, had a bit of flexibility within my process. I've slept on things and come back the next day with different opinions. For me, I feel like it's better. I've settled right now on it's far better to play badly and win than play well and lose, which is obviously that the former is what we've done. I don't think we've even got out of second gear. And I think that what you have to kind of take away from the first 4 games is to say that the Spursy thing, where Tottenham in the past have played really well and thrown away games, that surely has to be removed now, because we're not being Spurs. We're being the opposite. We're the antithesis of Spursy right now.
We've created a new definition of Spursy, Sean.
A new definition of Spursy, where we get the job done, right? We get over the line. And I'd rather look at it and think, look, we haven't got out of second gear. Things are taking their time, which is something that you have to factor in when we've got new players coming into the dressing room. And I know a lot of them haven't had too many minutes on the pitch yet, but there's just a whole new flavour in the dressing rooms, and people are getting used to each other. I'm sorry if you can hear that. My dog's playing with a squeaky toy.
I can hear it, but maybe I'm deaf.
I'm going to close the door in a second. But generally speaking, I feel like I'm excited by the prospect of when we do drop into third gear and fourth gear, how well it's going to be. And I think that that's only going to take a little bit more time, whether it's against West Ham tomorrow or Fulham. I've got an absolutely no doubt in my mind that before middle of September, 5, 6, 7 games in, we're going to be getting back into full swing, and then we're going to be smashing teams 4-5-0. And so, yeah, I'd rather look at it as a positive rather than anything else right now.
I agree with you there. I feel like a lot of Spurs fans sort of had two different takeaways, and I think both are sort of valid because they have evidence, I think, on both sides, where one takeaway from these first 4 games is I've seen Spurs be better than this. I know we can be better than this. And the fact that we've had such a good start means that we can grind out performances when we don't play well. At the same time, it has been 4 games in a row, or I guess 3 games in a row, you could say, apart from the Southampton result, like Ben said. But in the 3 games in a row, it may be a bit unconvincing, and Spurs fans are thinking we're getting figured out perhaps again, or things are wrong behind the scenes, with the tactics or whatnot, which we'll obviously dive into later. But it is kind of two different takeaways, I think, because some Spurs fans know we can be better, but others are maybe thinking, it's a different story this season. Dave, I'm going to read you some quotes, from Antonio Conte, and how he's kind of thought of this. The Italian boss believes his side are making strides and is not, too, worried, it seems like. And he said the players are improving in their resilience, also learning to suffer together, his favorite word, I must say, and be compact. If you are a strong mentality, if you survive in this type of situation, we have to continue to work. We have been working only 9 months together. The road is long for us. Sometimes only when you win something, you get a belief and confidence because you are now a winner. We are doing well, and we have started this part. Dave, thoughts on, Antonio Conte's, start? Has it been, a bit lucky, or has it been well-deserved?
I think it's been well-deserved. I've seen a stat today. Tottenham have picked up the most points in the top division since March of last year, or since March, 39 points. So for me, I think, look, at the end of the day, I do think Romero being out injured has probably hampered in the last 2 games, especially how we play out from the back. I think when Romero's in there, you see us, we're a lot better in possession. We look a lot more comfortable in possession. So for me, I think it's fully deserved at the end of the day. Look, we have to understand, with a backline of Dyer, Davies and Sanchez, I keep telling people we can't keep going and pressing and keep throwing everybody forward, etc., because they're not good enough if we were to play like that. So Conte, when Romero's out injured, for me, he's showing good management. Look, take the Chelsea one out because we all know we have problems at Stamford Bridge. But the last 2 games, we have to play a certain way to protect that backline. And I think we've done it, and we've got out there with results. And plus, you're going to see a lot more of this with 2 games coming up every single week. You're going to see a lot more of this, of us sitting in, keeping it tight, being very, very hard to beat and catching teams on the counter. And when you look at our team, look, I don't think the style of football is glamorous. I would much rather see us play sexy football. But where did it get us underneath Pochettino?
Dave, why is it that we haven't done this before? Considering it hasn't been the most glamorous. Like I said, it hasn't been, like a man's, start to the season. It hasn't been, singing Olé within 10 minutes. It's been very different. So why haven't, teams in the past done it?
Well, I think Jose Mourinho tried. Just he didn't have a lot of players on board, but Conte does have them on board, and I think they are willing to suffer. I think Conte has probably made them realise the benefits of maybe playing this one. I get it, we're not playing sexy football, but we're playing winning football, and that's what everyone wants to see at the end of the day. Sometimes playing sexy football doesn't win you anything. We've seen it under Pochettino. I'll get you close. But one thing I'm confident of is if we get to them semi-finals and finals this time around, Conte has the tactics and has the team playing in a certain way that will get us over the line. At times, sometimes we've been too expansive and we've been caught. Whereas this time around, I think Conte is playing to the strengths of the team, especially without Romero or Langley either side, because at the end of the day, if you have better players in possession at the back, which Conte wants to play out from the back, you dominate a lot more possession. But with some of the players we have out the back and the passing is too unpredictable, he's playing the way he is and he's getting us results. And I think you'll see it improve.
Do you guys, do you think it's worth also, I think it's worth pointing out that I don't think we've given enough credit where it's due to the opposition. Like Nottingham Forest played, it was the biggest game that they've had at the City Ground in a long, long time. And their fans were insane on the day. Ben was there. I'm sure he can testify to that. But
came back to me, a headache.
Well, there you go, right? So, That's what you get for headbutting the stands when we scored, mate. You know. No, but I think that generally speaking, right, this season, there's so many results you could point to in the first opening 4 weeks and say, like, didn't think that would happen. I think I think the gap is closer in terms of how tight every team is. Southampton, for example, taking the lead right now against Chelsea. You know, Man City getting taken all the way to and were lucky to get a point against Newcastle. Leeds smashing Chelsea. And exactly, yeah, Liverpool as well, right? Manchester United starting awfully, then going and beating Liverpool. There's so many places to point to and say, well, that result was a shock, or that result was a surprise. But so for Tottenham to get through, I think we need to be paying a little bit more respect to the quality of the teams. Wolves is not an easy team to play against. Nottingham Forest away is not going to be an easy place for any team to go.
Tight games. Forest is
So I think the start that we've had has been one of the more difficult of any of the teams. And the only team that's got more points in the bag is Arsenal. And whilst they're celebrating the championship or the Premiership title already, they played 2 teams that have been immediately promoted, and one of them will probably go back down. They played Aston Villa, who are probably going to go down, and they played they had a good Leicester, and they played a good 45 minutes against Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace battered them for the other half. So for me, I just think that Tottenham need to be really happy and content with what we've got out of the results, and also recognise the fact that a lot of the teams that we played are very capable teams, and I think we should take pride in that.
What's funny is I think most Spurs fans had asked for 10 points, after those 4 games. Funny enough, we probably didn't realize that would have been the best start in 12 years. So that's what we were expecting. That's what we were asking for. That's what we thought would be a good marker to hit. We hit that marker, so we should be happy. But I guess we didn't even know that would be the best start in 12 years.
Yeah. I will add as well. Yeah. Sorry, Ben, you go first. I'll go after.
No, I was just going to say that I agree with everything everyone's saying, and it's a good start and we've deserved the start. But I would say that the teams that we have come up against are not kind of great attacking sides. The Wolves, the Nottingham Forest is, even Chelsea, to be honest, not great attacking sides. And we are conceding chances where the other team could be doing a lot better from. And if they were doing a lot better from them, they can be getting goals. So I think that we need to watch ourselves, because if we come up against a good attacking side, we can really become undone by the first halves that we're putting in games right now. And I think in that sort of extent, we've a bit lucky that we haven't come up against like a really good attacking side in the first 4 games. But having said that, all these games that we did play, apart from the Nottingham Forest one, we lost last season. So you've got to take what you can at the moment. And I think things are good at the moment, but we just need to watch ourselves.
I fully agree with everything the 2 boys are after saying there, actually. And for me as well, we've only really got Perisic into the team so far. Once some more of these new signings get into that team, you will see a marked improvement, in my opinion. I think if you get Basuma into that midfield, Langley in ahead of Ben Davies, I think you'll see a much improved Tottenham in terms of on the ball as well, and maybe starting a lot better, because I think we'll be a lot more comfortable in possession. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, and even as Martin says, the Wolves game, I haven't, seen a game where Neves hasn't been able to, ping balls left and right, be able to dominate games. I've seen Wolves play absolutely terribly and still dominate the midfield. They're that sort of team, it seems like. And we have to look at it as, kind of, while probably, like Ben said, very difficult, teams to come up against, at least defensively, or at least, for us, going forward. The other teams were all, I think, kind of solid defensively. Maybe they weren't probably the real best sort of attack, to offer. So they're probably real tests still to come, I could say. But moving on to the next question here, we're going to actually go with the thumbnail, go with the theme of tonight. And we were, in the watch along, Dave, seeing plenty of comments that this was starting to look like Nuno ball against, Nottingham Forest. And people were thinking that, this is probably the similar sort of start, in fact, that Nuno sort of had as well. What are your thoughts, Dave, on that? Maybe I'll start with you, here in the case of Nuno. Do you think this is similar at all? Do you think this is way off? Because I know you were there with me for the watch along, and I was quite shocked to see those comments. Then again, they were coming from plenty of different people. So people are frustrated with kind of the style of play right now.
No, I don't think it's anywhere similar to Nuno ball. Look, under Nuno, even in the first 3 games, we even struggled to create a hell of a lot of chances. Like with this time around, we're creating more chances than the opposition teams. I think I can look. I mean, I get that Nuno, we picked up 3 wins out of 3 and whatever else, but like you know, at the end of the day, I feel this is much more different to Nuno. We've got Harry Kane on board. You know, he's scoring goals in August. I think we've got a better team than what we did under Nuno as well. I think we've got a better team spirit. I think we've got a better mentality and everything else as well. I see this run continue. And I just don't get how you can compare Nuno and Conte. I think it's crime of the century. I think there should be sentences handed down for comparing the two. At the end of the day, one has hair and the other one doesn't. So there's the first thing that you shouldn't be comparing them to. But at the end of the day, for me, I think, look, I'm enjoying myself under Antonio Conte. Look, the football's not glamorous, but it's winning football. Under Nuno, the players didn't respect him. They didn't fear him. They do underneath Conte, and they will keep putting in performances under this guy. Whereas under Nuno, they're looking at him, they're just like, look, I'll get you sacked in the morning. You know, you're a nobody. I'm a superstar. You're a nobody. You know, and for me, I don't get the comparisons. Like, you have to take into account, we're beating teams and picking up points against teams that we didn't last season. It's a very good start. You know, at the end of the day, if we would have lost all the games, everyone would have said, oh, same Tottenham, you know, blah, 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 blah. But the fact that we're winning them, we're winning. I don't get where the unhappiness is coming from. At the end of the day, football's about winning. It's about 3 points. We're winning. And the performances will improve. The sign of a good team is a team that can win, even though not playing well. That's what we've all said in the past. You know, why can't Tottenham? We have to learn to get over the line when you're not playing well, like City do, like Liverpool do. And that's what we're doing. We're only 4 games in, and it's going to improve. Like I said, most points since March in the top 5 division, 39, and that's set to continue. We're unbeaten as well. It's nowhere near. Now, under Nuno, I think we were beaten at this stage. Now we're not. We're unbeaten. So for me, I don't think there's any comparison whatsoever.
Yeah. Ben, you know, your thoughts on this campaign, you know, start compared to Nuno's? Very different, very similar, maybe somewhere in the middle. Where do you stand?
It's the most ridiculous statement I've ever heard. It's ridiculous.
Sorry
I
to
can't
insult
believe
you.
I can't believe anyone's even talking about it. I mean, it's just lazy to call the start of this season the same as the start of last season. The start of last season, we beat Watford 1-0 at home, and I think it was the 3rd win of the season last year. It might have been the 2nd. We had 0 shots on target that game, and we won because Sonny free kick went all the way through. That wasn't even a shot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We had just lost to Crystal Palace 3-0 at Selhurst Park. We're not even conceding 2 shots on target on our goal in a game. It's completely different. It's completely different. We are creating chances even when we're not playing well. I mean, Harry Kane has multiple chances a game. Sonny has multiple chances. Kulusevski is creating like an absolute animal. Richarlison is coming on and making an impact. I mean, we're daylights apart to what we were at the beginning of last season. Daylights.
To be fair, I don't know, the fans, you know, at this moment in time, they see, you know, a bit of frustration in the style of play, though, Ben, and they think, you know, there's been a bit of a drab, you know, sort of display from, you know, the midfield as well as, you know, the center backs and possession and whatnot. Do you kind of see the similar frustrations, you know, that we had under Nuno, kind of comparing to Conte or kind of the, you know, the frustrations very different that we're experiencing?
I think the frustrations are different. I mean, under Nuno, literally every single facet of our game was a frustration. Every single facet. We can't do anything right. Our defense was all over the place. We couldn't have a shot on target. Never mind a goal, a shot on target. We're talking here.
Yeah, we keep forgetting that.
Under Conte, I mean, at least we have a structure, and when we're not playing well, that structure can get us through games. And that's what I can say about Antonio Conte. I mean, the beginning of the season under Nuno, the first 3 games were luck. It was pure luck. At least this time, our defense looks somewhat solid, where we're not conceding too many shots on goal, and our attack, we can create chances at any moment in the game with the players that we've got going forward.
Sean, you've stared at a watch along chat. I know you've seen some things, you know, maybe that you probably didn't want to see, probably some takes on, you know, the style of play that probably you might have disagreed with, but it is, you know, how all Spurs fans feel. They all, you know, kind of feel entitled, or they're all well entitled to, you know, how they perceive the game. And I did see plenty of Spurs fans on Twitter, as well as in our watch along, saying that, you know, this was a bit, you know, similar to Nuno. Is that, you know, a bit reactionary in your eyes, or is there maybe something in it?
No, well, I agree. I don't think there's anything in it. Again, like the other guys said, I looked at the stats for the first.
Jordan, I've never heard you agree so much before in my life. Agree.
I need to do better here, lads.
If you guys talk sense more, then I'd agree more. You know.
Similar to Nuno or dissimilar?
No, I think like I was looking at the stats earlier. Compared the 4 games to these 4 games, the start of the season. I think we had 50% more shots on target and 60% more shots off target in these 4 games on average than the previous 4. Obviously, it's the 5th game onwards, it was the Crystal Palace game onwards. Then we struggled to have a shot on target under Nuno, so it could only it got worse. The first 3 games were the best of the Nuno spell, not just in victory, but in performance. I think the other thing to remember is that under Nuno we never saw glamorous football. Right, from the first game until his 8th game or whatever it was, 10th game, we never saw it.
Every element like that.
Yeah, we never saw it. Not even when we went to Portugal and Pasco Ferreira, whatever that team was called. Whereas with Conte, we have seen good football. In the period, the second half of last season, when we were smashing Newcastle 5-1, when we beat Norwich on the last day, when we beat Villa 4-1, when we did Everton 5-0 at home. But we have seen free-flowing, high-scoring football that was attractive to watch, and that was where we just tore teams apart. So it's, yes, at the moment we're not playing in the same style as we'd like to see if we're going to go on and win games, but we should be able to take, to not disagree with the other 2. It is there's no comparison, and not least because we know that with Conte, we've seen that we can play football under Conte's system. It's just not quite clicking just yet. So yeah, no concerns at all that it's Nuno ball.
I'm in agreement there, and I think there's just some very obvious, differences. And in fact, maybe I'll read, one of the quotes, from Cooper, which I actually feel like would not have been said under Nuno. These are Cooper's quotes actually after that game. And just right afterwards, he said, performance was good. Thought we really took the game to Spurs. They allowed us to have loads of the ball and play high up the pitch and to really get into good areas and threaten the goal. But that's actually what we didn't do, is what he said. For all the good play that we had and all the good positions that we took, we couldn't actually turn those into really enough attempts on the goal. I know that's the hardest thing to do in football, but we simply didn't do it. So that is where my feeling is. So while maybe Spurs fans are a bit frustrated, lads, it does seem that even Steve Cooper was actually frustrated with how we came up against them, which does tell me at least that there is probably some good performances in us defensively, or at least Conte is doing something right. Dave, what are your thoughts on that?
Look, personally, I think Cooper is frustrated with how many strikers they brought in this summer. They couldn't get a proper shot on target or bag a goal. I think he's more frustrated with Forrest's finishing. What I will say is we've seen the result of giving up chances that we have been giving up, because we've given up the 4 most chances in the opening 4 days in the Premier League so far, and that is a concern. Against better teams, we've seen the proof in the pudding against Chelsea. They'll take them. West Ham, if we give up them shots in and around the box, they've got Soucek, they've got Declan Rice, Mikel Antonio, who loves scoring against Tottenham. Better teams will avail of it. So for me, I think he's more frustrated at his strikers that they didn't take the opportunity. That is a concern for me, but at the end of the day, we're winning games. I think we'll continue to win games. And yeah, that's it at the end of the day for me.
And, back to the Nuno argument here with Dark Sun G, and we're still on it, don't worry, saying Nuno had -3 goal differential in four games, while we are on +6 goal differential in 4 games. Also, Conte knows how to get revenge on teams we dropped points against last season, and Conte changes games as well. If we had given this question of Dark Sun G, probably would have slapped me across the face, I'd imagine, actually, with the stats that he has available to him as well. And he's absolutely right. The goal differential is a huge point. I think Sean has mentioned the XG, too, being probably a huge difference, between Conte and Nuno, while probably conceding a lot of possession. Spurs have been very, very good at being able to, sort of keep teams, at least out of our own net, a few clean sheets. I know Dave is, still a bit skeptical, but we're keeping clean sheets. We're still being able to score goals, at least create chances. And any time that feels like that Kulusevski or Kane are able to turn, their center back or turn, their marker, or just kind of, free on goal, it feels like we have really good chances. And I think that's a big difference between us and Nuno. But any thoughts on this, lads? The goal differential probably being a very obvious, kind of difference, Ben?
Like I said before, every facet of the pitch is obvious. It's not just the goal difference. It's the way we play our football, the structure of the team, the way we can break down other teams, the way we are on the break. I mean, every single facet of the game is completely different. And we don't have some guy sitting there going, I'm going to make you proud. I'm going to make you proud. You know? We've got a proper guy who, when he speaks, you listen, and I couldn't be happier.
In fact, I'm going to make you suffer is
exactly.
And the fact that this guy had Harry Kane's son, you know, in his team, and he couldn't create chances. There's no excuse for it. Even Jose Mourinho managed to get Kane and son to create chances for each other. No excuse for it. And you look at it now, adding in Kulu Sexy. I mean, you know, there's a clear pattern of play, a clear way of breaking down oppositions, a clear way of playing going forward. Whereas under Nuno, that wasn't the case, and there's no excuse for it. If Jose Mourinho could only have Kane and Son and still get the goals they got underneath him and become one of the most prolific duo, there's no excuses for Nuno. Look, that guy, he's out in fucking Saudi Arabia or something like that now, you know. So, you know, I just think it's a nonsense comparison. I really do. Look, if you have a problem with the transfer window, fine, but let's not start comparing Nuno to Conte, please. I beg you.
Dark Sanji shot me up as well with that comparison as well. Big up, my man. Philip Brady in the house. Good to see you, Godfather, saying hi, gents. Some very toxic stuff flying around on Spurs social media. I hate to see what would it be like if we weren't in third position here.
I'll take this. I'll take this quickly. Look, first of all, everybody is entitled to their opinion. Not everyone has to see everything through the same eyes, because it would be a boring place if they did. Yeah, and that's all I really say on it. You know, everyone has their opinion, but look, we all know what Twitter can be like at times and stuff like that. You know,
I feel bad for Philip though. You know, he feels like he can't escape. He can't escape to fraud sport, or you know, or talk shite as he likes to call it. And you know, he can't go to social media either. So there's really no place for Philip Brady, our Godfather, to go to express his Spurs opinions.
There's not. But look. If you don't like it, you know, just don't tune into it. That's what I do, you know what I mean? But look, at the end of the day, everyone's entitled to their opinion. Me personally, I do think probably some of the stuff I'm seeing is a bit overkill. You know, look, I can't have this comparing us to Nottingham Forest in the transfer window. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. And I think it takes away from the message, if I'm being honest, comparing us to someone like Nottingham Forest. They had a championship level squad and they had to do what they had to do. And it's still no guarantee it'll keep them in the Premier League. All the business they've done, their defence is still absolutely useless. They still couldn't hit a barn door with a bulldog.
There's three teams a lot worse than them, though, mate. They'll be fine.
Yeah, but they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle, but you can't compare the window we've had to Nottingham Forest.
Yeah, of course.
Go and get Perisic. They just would not be able to go and get Perisic. I don't want to hear any more of this. Look, last season we got to learn lessons here. Last season I heard all season Brighton are better than us, West Ham are better than us. Blah blah blah.
Leicester.
Last January, look at Aston Villa. They're showing big club mentality. They're acting early. Well, guess what? Newsflash: we're in Champions League. They're not.
And Philip Brady, I must say, perhaps just go off the grid for a bit. You know, take a vacation if you have it in you, because you know I think Jason Cundy, as well. You know, I've seen him plenty on Talk Sports. So I just don't think you can escape it right now, Philip. There's just no place for you to go. I would just say hunker down, turn off the Wi-Fi, turn off the mobile data. Just maybe tune out for a week, my man. Big up, Philip, because we also need you Thursday, so we want the fresh opinions. So just hunker down, wait till Thursday. Big up, Philip. But, I did read out those Steve Cooper quotes there. And Sean, what are your thoughts on that? I thought they were actually quite funny, because he said they allowed us to have plenty of the ball, and they allowed us to play high up the pitch, and they allowed us to get into good areas to threaten the goal. But that's simply what we didn't do. We couldn't actually threaten the goal. Thoughts on that?
I think they did threaten. They didn't threaten Lloris, but they had some threats. I remember I forget the guy name, that the clear header that he just glided wide in the first half. But I think one of the stats that I look at on understat is Southampton almost went 3 up then. Is the amount of shots that Tottenham are having a gut conceding and where they are. And I don't think we had a single shot until the Nottingham Forest game that was inside the 6-yard box. And in the Nottingham Forest game, I think we conceded one. There was a header inside the 6-yard box, and it was a block shot anyway. So, it must have not have been a header. But I think that Tottenham, whilst we're giving up opportunities as part of the strategy, part of the technique, part of the whatever the process is, what we are doing is basically limiting these teams to have their shots outside of the box. Now, whether that's because the other teams don't have enough firepower up front to be able to get themselves into better positions, or whether Tottenham are just defending better than we give it credit for. We are conceding a lot of shots against us, but the vast majority of them are from 20 yards or more outside, away from the goal. And so if we're going to concede, if we're going to give away shots, then I think that's the best place to do it. And I think Nottingham Forest was another example of that. Wolves was the best example. I think Forest is another one. So I understand what he's saying, that like we gave up a lot of possession to them and we sat deep and allowed them to come onto us. But we were deep enough to be able to keep them back outside the penalty area, and I think that's part of the plan. To be honest, I think when you don't have Romero in the team, the tactics from Conte would probably just sit deeper. And I haven't done a video on it, but I've spoken about it actually on We Are Tottenham TV today. Not to get off topic, but if you look at the heat maps of
great channel, by the way.
It's a fantastic channel, yeah. Third best channel in the community. If you look at the heat maps of the certain players, right, since you've had Romero out and Sanchez and Emerson have come in, they're the hottest or the deepest red of their heat maps for every single game are so much deeper than they are on the left-hand side. I don't know if we're going to move on to any other topics that involve Sonny, but if we are, let me know and I'll stop right now. But for me, I feel like if you actually look at the heat maps of the individual players defensively, it doesn't look like we're doing a straight traditional 3-4-3. It looks like we're doing a skewed 3-4-3 where Perisic or Sessegnon are almost as far up the pitch as where Sonny would normally be. And Ben Davies spends most of his time in the opposition half on the left-hand touchline, which to me, I think explains some of the struggles that Sonny have had because Sonny's getting crowded out with more players up there. And it also explains why Emerson and Sanchez don't get forward or don't get out as much. I'm rambling here and getting completely off the topic of the Nottingham Forest thing, but I do think, just to bring it back, I do think that that tactic is part of the reason why we're giving up those shots outside of the area. And now I'm going to stop and let you take back over the control of the microphone.
Absolutely. I think, you're welcome to take it whatever direction you want. Really, I was just sort of pointing out that Cooper looked a bit frustrated and perhaps maybe he thought he wanted something out of that game. I don't know, Ben, if you heard, the quotes for him, he seemed very frustrated with, Forrest not really doing very much with it. Is that just because he knew they could have been better? Or is that because Spurs perhaps gave him those positions to do well, but we defended well enough that we did frustrate them?
I think a lot of times you lull teams, or Conte lulls teams into a full sense of security where, gives them possession, but doesn't let them too close to our goal. And I think that's what we did against Nottingham Forest. And it's frustrating when you're that team, when you feel like you're in control of the game, you feel like you're really putting it on the other team, but you're not really getting that close to goal where you can actually hurt the other team. And that's exactly what happened. And yeah, he's definitely going to come away frustrated, feeling like he dominated the game against Spurs, but actually only had one shot on target. And I was walking out of the game and I heard Forest fans talking around me being like, wow, what a team we are. We gave Tottenham the runaround for 90 minutes. We were the dominant side against them. We made a Champions League side look average. Well, yeah. They can think what they want, but they lost the game at the end of the day. And this is what Conte football does. We lull people into a full sense of security and then we hit them. And we've always got the tools to hurt them.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel the same way. Probably something that I might transition to here, lads. And I think Sean actually got ahead of me on this. And it has to do with the XG. And Sean, I'm actually with you, way ahead of you, in fact, on it. Chelsea in that 2-2 draw that we had 1.4 XG, while Spurs actually only had 1.1. So not really too much of a difference there. It shows that probably both teams were even lucky to get a second. While Spurs didn't even have very much possession, they actually had 2 more shots on target than the likes of Chelsea. In that Wolves game, we had actually plenty more XG and had more shots on target, despite, again, being more of a kind of midfield domination by Wolves. Forest, again, conceding a lot of possession, but we actually had 2.7 XG, showed that we probably should have scored more, maybe having to do with the penalty. And yet again, more shots on target. So Sean, probably been waiting to unleash on this. I've given you the stats here. Is this probably something that Spurs fans should be maybe a bit more happy about, considering that we are creating chances clearly?
Yeah, we're creating chances. It's all about in the moment, right? Whether or not we're taking them. I think against Forest, whilst the result was fantastic, you could see that the tactics were working very well. I don't know if I necessarily want to see us set up in a way against a newly promoted team where we're going to... It's one thing to do it against Manchester City or Chelsea or whatever, but to do it against Nottingham Forest, look, it worked. It played into their hands. They played into our hands, and we broke. There were so many times when we broke. I'm a little bit concerned about the relationships that are happening up front. I heard Dave talking about it, or positing the question the other day, whether or not what was the reason why Sonny didn't celebrate the goal with Harry Kane. What was the reason? Why didn't they pass to each other for certain things? I don't know whether that's just a momentary thing, selfishness, Sonny trying to get. But again, getting off topic, the XG is really it shows that we are creating lots of opportunities. I actually think the XG would have been far higher had some of the times we broke away, had there been better decision making between Sonny, Kane, and Kulusevski. Like even though Kane got 2 goals, I didn't think he actually had a fantastic game in the most part. So the XG thing is positive, but like I say, on a better day, if the front three were working more in harmony and having better chemistry with each other, then I think the XG would have been a lot higher, as would the scoreline have been. And I would like to at some point discuss those front 3 players if we got time tonight, because I do worry a little bit about if there's any, or at least 2 of them, whether there's any issues between Sonny and Kane.
Interesting.
We've heard this before, though, Sean. I think it's just a bunch of nonsense, to be honest. Okay. I think so. I mean, I think we've heard it. We've heard this before over the years, and it's never been true. It never will be true. And,
if you're referencing perhaps, them not playing each other in certain moments, I feel like in defense of Sonny
and they're not celebrating. Sonny not celebrating either of the goals. That was a bit worried to me.
I do love these conversations because, it's all about the body language reading. And I remember we were doing the same thing with Harry Kane last season, and his thoughts, on his future with Spurs. It was a big body language sort of reading competition. And it probably, a lot of it was quite founded. I feel like if I were to reference anything with them not being on the best of pages, I feel like Sonny's in a moment where he is sort of desperate to score, and he is desperate to get on the sheet. And one of those moments where he put his head down, maybe didn't play Perisic or Kane, I sort of call that blinders. Maybe that's not really the best term, but to me, it sort of references when you're kind of a bit not in the best sort of confidence. And so you really just put your head down, block everything else out, and just shoot and try to score. It's that even like sense. If you were really rattled in golf or, tennis or whatever it may be, where you just kind of just block everything out and try to your best because you're not feeling your most confident. It feels like that's what Sonny did there when he didn't play Kane or Perisic. I didn't notice, the goal celebrations there. But Dave, you wanted to say something. Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say something. We've had somebody in the chat there just basically abusing me, calling me a sellout and everything else. Now, what I will say to that absolute donut is if he thinks Daniel Levy needs my channel to protect Daniel Levy, who has less than 8,000 subscribers, you're absolutely sadly mistaken. With the power and the people that Daniel Levy know and the influence he has, if you think he needs my channel, you're an absolute donut. I need to go and retake it. And by the way, what happened to the message attack the argument, not the person? Seems to be gone very, very quickly, or does it only work one way? That's what I.
Perhaps one way. But Ben, back to Sorry, Sean.
I'll be back in a minute. I just need to calm down for a second. Absolute donut.
Benji, take us away here. Your thoughts on that XG. I know I kind of outstatted you there, and pretty much all of it had to do with XG. But we've had more XG than every team we played against, or at least close in the case of Chelsea, and we've had more shots on target against every single team, despite the possession figures maybe being up and down.
Yeah, I mean, what more can I say than what you just said? I think is absolutely spot on, and that's why there's no need to be worried right now, and that's why we're not the same as Nuno ball. And I think that, like I said, things are going well, but I just want to talk about Sonny for a second.
What Sean said,
From what we're hearing from people that we speak to is that Sonny is going through some sort of confidence issue at the moment, and you can see that on the pitch. You can see that with the way he's playing. The ball's bouncing off him. He's taking a bit too long in decision making and stuff like that. And from what we're hearing is that this was before the Forest game. We were hearing this, by the way. It's not after the Forest game. He said to us that Conte didn't want to take him out of the team because he thought it might affect his confidence even more. And that's why he wasn't out. He apparently Conte actually wanted to take him out of the team for the Forest game, but he actually didn't because he think it might have knocked his confidence even more. And after another poor performance, it'll be interesting to see what he does now tomorrow night.
I think you have to, if you're going to, because I heard, not that I know anybody, but I've heard the similar sort of things from people that also know people. I would imagine that the best way, if you've got someone who's uber sensitive generally and their confidence is shaky, you have to do what's best for the team. But you have to also be sensitive to somebody who if you handle it in a bad way, could have certain repercussions where he goes into a spiral. So I think the best way to rotate, and I'm not going to use the word drop, but like the right verb, I guess, to use is rest or rotate. I think the right way to do it would be in a game where you're also rotating more than just Sonny, so that it doesn't look like it's just him that's being removed from the team temporarily. So if the team tomorrow would have otherwise had Sessegnon back in for Perisic, Longley in for Davies, or Basuma in for, if Bentancur wasn't concussed, like if there was a natural transition for a couple of players, then you probably could include Sonny, take Sonny out, give Richarlison the game. If you just rotate or rest Sonny for Richarlison and everybody else is the same, I think he could take that very personally. And then if he is sensitive, he could maybe.
I completely get that, Sean. But the thing I would say on that is that even if you take 3 or 4 players out and you make those changes that you're talking about, the story is always going to be Spurs drop Heung-min Son, especially within the fan base.
I know what you mean. And this sounds like a stupid question here for both of you, but I do want you to answer it. Do you wait 4 games for Son, or do you wait 5 games for Son? Is it, is there a difference between the two? Because it feels like maybe giving him this London derby, a huge match, he
always scores against West Ham as well, doesn't he? So
that too. Is this sort of... how do you put it? Fulham seems like the right time to rotate anyways. For, Richarlison to come in, it seems natural for him to come in, but it feels like you give Sonny the benefit of the doubt, if you ask me, for the 5th game. But perhaps 4 games
it's an easy thing to do now,
in a row is too much for some fans. 4 games might be too much in a row. Yeah.
I actually think from where we are now in this stage of the season, with pretty much 2 games a week now until the World Cup, barring the odd week here and there, I mean, it's a good opportunity because we're going to have a lot of opportunities now to rotate, and you don't have to, you can just play it on squad rotation instead of, Son's not playing well, so he's coming out of the team.
I'm with you there. I feel like Richarlison, at least in my opinion, would be probably better suited against a Fulham, not only because Spurs are probably playing at home in that match, but it just feels like, maybe Son, that experience there in those London derbies, him being a bit desperate, I feel like does probably help him. Perhaps the confidence might not be totally there, like Benji kind of alluded to. He is, experiencing a bit of confidence issues. At the same time, though, I feel like a game like West Ham could be the perfect opportunity, if not one of the better opportunities, for him to sort of turn it around. It's not like coming up against a Man City, a Liverpool, that's like a real test that I think you should be, in fine form against. It's a West Ham, as much as we call it a big London derby match, Philip would love to say the bubble blowers and not a big football club. So I think Sonny should definitely take this opportunity to get back into it, because the Spurs will be behind him. But who knows? I feel like 4 games could be too much. 4 games could be where Spurs fans start to lose patience. And I think Richie has done well with the minutes that he has been given, to be honest. But Dave, before we move on to, I think a big, tactical question.
I know I certainly have bought in. I was, Ben, I was like, it wasn't about the player. It was about the price that I was skeptical of. But in the minutes that I've seen of him, I've got to be honest, I've slightly fallen in love with him, man.
How do you think, like we were talking about Sonny's confidence and Sonny's confidence being knocked if he gets dropped out of the team, but how do you think Richarlison will feel if he doesn't get into the team after coming on in every game and not, making an impact?
100%, mate. It's something you have to factor in, right? It's not just about Sonny. Like there's 11 players, there's 25 players in the squad. Unfortunately, if Sonny is sensitive, you've got to be delicate with him, but the team comes first. And there's other players as well that are going to start. And, Richarlison is probably the sort of character as well, that if he doesn't get his chance soon, he's going to start to get a little bit edgy. He might have been more patient had Sonny started this season with 3 or 4 goals and then thinking, well, I haven't, there's no justification to have my chance yet. But
the ideal situation is Sonny is sort of preferred because he might be a bit sensitive to the dropping, and then that sort of makes Richarlison even hungrier, makes him even more determined to come in and get that starting spot. That would be the ideal situation, but it doesn't always go that way. I agree with you, Sean. Perhaps, Richarlison does get a bit irked, and, to that question, is 4 games maybe quite a while? He probably feels like after 4 games, he should be
4 games, 5 games, 6 games. At some point, it's got to happen. The one thing I would say just quickly before we move on, before Dave just says, I would love it if Sonny could get his head around embracing the competition for places. Like he's never had to have anyone breathing down his neck. He's never been dropped from or rotated from South Korea. For Tottenham, he's been an ever present for God knows how many years. and he's a god in South Korea, right? So whilst he's a lovely sweetheart of a guy, his ego deep down is probably incredibly secure in the idea that he is, the number one in every realm. And so it's a challenge for him that, to think that somebody has come in who's a near club record signing, who's essentially coming in for his spot. Whereas if you look at Højbjerg, if you ask most Tottenham fans, most people would have predicted that at some point in this season, the 1 and 2 pairing for midfield would be Bissouma and Bentancur.
He's got good competition there.
And Højbjerg's looked over his shoulder and gone, holy shit, I got Bissouma breathing down my neck. And he ups his game. Right, he's upped his game. He's, according to the various stat websites, he's been the best player for Tottenham over the start of the season.
Mm.
Yeah, come on. Winks is gone. See you, mate.
He boarded the flight. He boarded the flight probably in a straitjacket, but he boarded the flight, dude.
Oh, I'm already cheered. I'm buzzing with that. I hope Sim's okay though, Benji. What was it Sim used to say? Oh, there's a player in there. He might be able to do this. He might be able to do that. I hope Sim's all right.
Sim's probably in a dark corner right now, shaking.
When they greet fans, when fans greet, when they get off the plane, you see all these fans, there with, signs and everything, greeting them off. Maybe Sim was there, watching, Winks, check out through security, helping him through, just making sure Winks gets on the plane properly. But everybody wish Winks the best because next week. We're going to need that transfer fee. It's not over. Like Sean said, kicking a can down the road there. So hopefully he plays well enough at Sampdoria that some club will offer a transfer fee. Before we move on there, Dave, did you have any thoughts on that Sonny situation, with Richarlison? You and I have been pretty consistent on this. I think we give him the benefit of the doubt yet again against West Ham because we feel like he's earned it. But not only that, West Ham does seem like a spicy sort of kind of opposition for him to get going again.
Yeah, first of all, Derek Smith, I would like to see it with party hat and party poppers, but, the backlash I'll get wouldn't be good, my man. There's plenty of Winks lovers still in the fan base. But look, when it comes to Sonny, I'll be honest, for me, I think you've got to do what you done with Harry Kane last year. You play your world-class players throughout. People are going around saying, oh, Liverpool rest the world-class players. Well, Mohamed Salah's been off form since last Christmas, according to the Liverpool fans, but he still plays week in, week out. For me, at the end of the day, Sonny's a loyal character, and someone that's loyal, if you don't show them loyalty back, that's where the relationship starts to fracture a little bit. And for me, I would keep persisting with Sonny. I'd definitely play him against West Ham. I think if you didn't play him against West Ham, the narrative would be Conte's dropped them. And for such a high-profile game, I'm not sure it's the right thing to do. For me, I think get away with saying against Fulham, oh, we're going to rest Sonny. And I would do it there if I'm being honest. Rest Sonny and bring in Richarlison. But for me, I think you've got to stick by Son. This guy is stuck by us. He signed a contract when no one else wanted to. And he will come good. Once he gets one goal, he's going to keep flying. For me, I don't think you should drop him. I also think we need to get more respect for our world-class players at Tottenham. I've seen last summer with Son or last summer with Kane. I've seen it with Son now. Drop, sell. He's not quick enough. He's this, he's that, he's the other. And at the end of the day, these guys have always scored the goals and will continue to score the goals. So you've got to stick by them. They've proven that.
Absolutely. And
Dave,
just to finish,
I don't think him not starting against West Ham is not being loyal to him. I don't believe that, because when you look at like a Man City or something, if they don't start like Erling Haaland this week, or if they don't start Mahrez on another day, no one's going, oh, they're not being loyal to these players.
Yeah.
Son,
it's part and parcel of the squad, isn't it? We've bought Richarlison. What's the point of buying them if they're never going to play?
Yeah, but why do we have to throw all of our shiny new toys in straight away? Why can't it happen naturally? We've got 7 games over the next 23 days. Sometimes you've got to let it happen naturally. Like the thing is, Conte's in a position where he doesn't want to alienate anybody that helped him out last season. We've seen what happened when Nuno done it. They were crying about the atmosphere in an away stadium. Imagine some of the stuff we've had to hear over the last while with some of these guys and some of the mistakes they've had to make. We need a run of games, etc., etc., etc. Look, for me, I just think you've got to stick by Son. I think you've got to play him. I'm not saying it'd be disloyal to drop him against West Ham, but I just don't think it will do his psyche any good.
Not dropping. I don't think it's dropping, though. Can we change the word? It's like not dropping. It's like part of a squad rotation. 2 games a week. We've got another game on Saturday against Fulham.
That's where I'm at. Yeah.
Look, if it's West Ham, you're dropping them. If it's Fulham, you're resting them. They're in two different levels of the team. You need Sonny more against West Ham than what you do against Fulham, in my opinion.
Okay, but then would you okay? So if he plays on Wednesday, would you be okay with, regardless of whether he scores a hat trick or not? Would you be okay with Richarlison coming in on Saturday?
100%. Look, I'm not afraid.
Even further, I would say Sonny gets subbed off 60th minute if Conte feels needs to be done. I feel like he's allowed 45 minutes to 55 minutes, Sonny, to right you, or at least come back into form. But once you are still 0-0 or 1-1, whatever the score may be, you do have to start thinking about the result, and whoever can come in to change the game, being Richarlison, I think has to come in. And whether that needs to be for Sonny, I think you just do it. Conte has already done it before. I could see him doing it again, to Sonny in the West Ham game. But certainly Fulham game, I would start Richarlison.
Look, I'm not opposed to squad rotation. It's going to happen naturally. Like I said, you've got 7 games in 23 days now. It's going to happen naturally. I'm not opposed to it. But right now, I think we need to show a little bit of loyalty to Son, like he's shown to Tottenham, in my opinion. And I think you've got to put him out there against West Ham. I think if you drop him against West Ham, in his mind, he will be dropped rather than rested. But against Fulham, he will be rested. But anyway, to be honest, when I listen to Antonio Conte's words, I'll take a fiver with all you guys. Make sure you pay up tomorrow. Son will start.
Spurs fans, we like to think we're not accountants, but we're certainly psychologists, I would say. Tala Ahmed saying, member for 5 months, only thing Nuno deserves respect for was signing Cuti Romero. But then he says, then again, and even that was the Don Paratici more, to be honest. He even corrected himself. Big up, Tala. Hopefully everything is keeping well. And then we have a super chat from Rob Wallace on that sort of sunny debate saying, hands down the best 4-man panel on Spurs topics at Daigle, and it's a 5-a-side team. Sonny will bounce back against West Ham. Body bags will be needed. If it is, a Sonny prediction, does anybody have a spicy Sonny prediction that could be a positive one? I'm not too sure how he is going to fare in this one, because I agree with a lot of people. Richarlison sort of does seem tailor-made for it. But then again, as everyone has pointed out, Sonny has performed very well in these games.
I know I rambled on the wrong
the bench and score.
Yeah,
go on, Sean.
No, I was just saying it's not more of a prediction. It's more of like, I know I rambled on the wrong part. It's probably a better time to have brought it up would have been now. But if you actually look at, and I'll do a video on it, if you look at the hotspots of all of the players in the team at the moment, I think the tactics that we're doing with this distorted left-sided kind of push, I don't think it suits Sonny. I think a lot of the pressure that's on Sonny, a lot of the quote-unquote poor performances he's been putting in is because we're not using him with the correct, we're not using him for what he's good at, which is getting in behind, running at pace, and having space. When you've got Perisic almost up as far as him on an average position, and Ben Davies inside the opposition half, where is there for Sonny to move? So for me, I think that Richarlison, whilst Romero's out, I think that it doesn't suit Sonny because of the natural push down the left-hand side and it putting up with that twist. I think we should play Richarlison, and then when Romero comes back and there's a bit more balance to the side with our defence moving forward, I think there'll be more space for Sonny to move into his own. And whilst I acknowledge that we should give Sonny enough time to a point, I do think that there's an opportunity cost. We don't know, like Schrodinger's cat, right? You can't know 2 outcomes at the same time. So for me, like, we don't know if you drop Sonny and rotate Sonny and Richarlison comes in and he doesn't score, everyone will say, why did you rest Sonny? He would have scored had he not been playing, right? But if you play Sonny and he doesn't score again, Richarlison maybe could have or would have scored had he had more time on the pitch. So for me, it's a tough decision, but I think right now Richarlison should be coming in until Romero's back in the team.
I also watched your predicted lineup, Ben, and you guys said that Richarlison, you even predicted would come into that one because he sort of fits the bill for a West Ham London derby. Yeah,
well, I think they both fit the bill for a London West Ham derby. I mean, Sonny's got his own record in that fixture, which is second to none. But I think these kind of games are tailor-made for Richarlison with his shithousery. But it doesn't mean that this is the great option that we have, that one of them can come on for the other with half an hour to go and really put pedal to the metal and get goals later on in the game. But I think that, for the reasons I said before, where Conte's head is at, and he was thinking about taking Son out of the team for the Forest game, I've got a feeling that he will take Son out for this game and start Richarlison, because I think it's something that Richarlison has deserved with what they've shown, what he's shown this season.
Definitely. Well, pick up Rob Wallace. Appreciate your support, my man. Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest. I think Son's going to score tomorrow. I really do. I think if we can get him in running behind that back line, I think he takes that opportunity for me. I'm confident with Sonny. Sonny very rarely goes 4 games without scoring a goal. And the thing is, he had these spells last season, and they weren't questioned nowhere near as much as they are this season. But for me, I think he scores. And look, the reason why Diego's not here is because he's working over in Canada. It's prime time working hours, my man. But look, you know, we've had him on before, but I still get dubbed what I do. You know, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't suit the narrative, I suppose. They'll never mention that, you know, I had the lead of the protests on all last January.
They didn't like that 5-a-side team, Dave. They didn't like that one either.
It just doesn't support the narrative, you know. It's absolutely ridiculous. But when Daigle is free, you will see him on here, my man.
There you are. Big up, Rob Wallace. Appreciate your support. Moving on to one of the last or second to last final questions, everybody. It has actually, I think, to do with a very interesting sort of tactical question having to do with the midfield, because a lot of people have said that maybe Conte doesn't really dominate the midfield, but does it really matter? Because a lot of, you know, teams have even said that, you know, it's not a big deal when it comes to dominating midfield. Alan Shearer said once Tottenham go 1-0 up, they are very difficult because of those forward players, because they can dig out, defend, and scrap. Not too much creativity in the midfield, but when you have those 3 up front, you don't necessarily need it. To you, Sean, while we have been dominated at spells in the midfield and in possession, is this something that Conte maybe is less worried about than the fans think?
Well, he hasn't tried to overcome the challenge, overcome the problem. He hasn't, you know, if you're going to play the 3-4-3 against teams that do 4-3-3 or something similar, and you see that you're being beaten to the second ball all the time, like we were against Chelsea, or where Wolves were just overrunning us, and you know, it was less so against Forest, but he hasn't tried to really to make any moves in that regard. I don't know if that's because, you know, he's afraid, or not afraid is the wrong word. He doesn't know which player to take off from the front 3 if you're going to bring a third.
Sorry, but Dane Mbappe just scored another goal.
I swear, he's heard around the ground here, Ben. You need to have a second job here. I'm loving this. He should have you. He should have you just having his hand to the ear the whole time, just stay in permanent position like that. But love it. Dane Mbappe scored, everybody. The second.
I had to interject there.
That's right.
Second.
Yeah, he hasn't put any tactics in place to overcome it, and I don't know what they would. If you're not going to change the formation or change the personnel that are in the formation to overcome that when you see it, then there is something, you know, that you could either ask one of the midfielders to come up and play more as a DMC, like you could ask Eric Dyer to come a little bit more forward, or you could ask one of the wing backs, whichever side the ball is on. You know, I think it would probably be Emerson would be the most likely one you'd want in to come across and squeeze the game a little bit more when we don't have the ball. But for me, I think that, he obviously doesn't see it as a problem. I do see it as a problem. I see us as, once again, you know, in most of the games we play against, we struggle to win the ball back in midfield, and we also struggle when we don't have the ball to get it forward, with the exception of Nottingham Forest, to get it past their midfield and into the channel. So, and I agree with what Ben was saying earlier on, that we've come up against 4 teams that haven't really got their forward line in play to take advantage of the chances that they have created. For me, it starts and finishes with the midfield overlap or overload. So I think it's a problem more than Conte probably does.
Can you be an effective team without dominating the midfield or dominating possession in your eyes, Ben?
I think if you want to just rely on like counterattacks and sit very deep and just spring on them every time they come forward, then you can be. But I think that when you look at last season, I think it came to a point where we were starting to look much better in midfield and we were starting to dominate midfield. So I'm not too sure what's happened at the start of this season, but I think Conte does care about it. And I think Conte will look at it. And I think Bissouma will be a massive difference to that as well when he does come in. And I think we'll see tomorrow night, because Bissouma is going to start tomorrow night because Bentancur's out. So I think it will be a big difference tomorrow. And it looks like Everton just taking the lead against Leeds again. But no, I think Conte is looking at that, and will tweak things and change things to get us back on track, because the start of this season, we have been a bit like open in the middle. But back end of last season, we weren't. So, and it's the same personnel. So I can't really put my finger on what's going on there.
It is hard. There's no easy answer, I would say. Dave, same question to you that I put to Ben. Can you be an effective team without really winning the battle in the midfield?
Look, I think we've shown that so far, if I'm being honest. You know, I think we have other answers to it. But for me, I think I think a lot of it starts with possession, if I'm being honest, Jack. I think we're very sloppy in possession. I think if we were a lot better in possession, you would see us dominate the games a lot more, and you would see us dominate the midfield a hell of a lot more, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, Conte has found a way, and let's just keep winning. Look, the way the game usually goes, if you dominate the midfield battle, you usually win the game. But Conte seems to have flipped that script a little.
Yeah, definitely seems to have in, certain ways. And I would even say that Conte doesn't seem to rely on the midfield to really be, the total, source of creativity. Obviously relies on players like Kulusevski, relies on players like Kane, Son, Perisic, Emerson, etc. It doesn't all really seem to fall on the midfield. While I feel like we have sort of done quite well without really performing well in the midfield, Ben did bring up a good point that it didn't seem like a big problem last season. Of course, we knew we were always outnumbered in the midfield by certain teams, but it didn't really exactly feel like, we were being dominated in the same sort of way that we've seen this season.
I think it was an issue last season, but I think the back end of last season, we seemed to have sorted it out, and Bentancur and Højbjerg struck up a really good partnership. But it was definitely an issue first half of the season, that's for sure.
Yeah, first half. Yeah, that's what I meant. The back half of the season, like you said, not weirdly as much of a problem. Good point.
I also think our midfield are getting a really rough ride at the minute, if I'm being honest. I think it's a lot better than what people give us credit for. Look, against Chelsea, we're outnumbered, no excuses. But at the end of the day, Højbjerg turned up in the second half against Wolves. Højbjerg turned up as well, had another good performance last week against Forest. I thought Bentancur and Højbjerg were probably two of the best players on the football pitch. I think our midfield has given an awful lot of a rough ride at this club. And for me, look, me personally, I think they're told not to go and engage the ball, purely to sit back and block up the gaps in front of that defence without possession. And in possession, I don't think they're helped with how slow that ball is coming out from the back at times. So for me, I think they're getting a real rough ride, but I actually think they're doing okay, and I think you'll see it improve as the season goes on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sean,
I don't think it's their fault that they're getting overran, though. I think that there's just a numbers game.
People said they got overrun against Forest, though, Sean. All Forest attacks came out wide, left hand.
Yeah.
Not true.
No, I didn't. Well, I personally, I don't think they were overrunning.
Yeah.
I think it was against Chelsea and Wolves. I think it was an override. But I think that they need more help from a member of the personnel, and I don't know who it would be. I don't know if there's like a dynamic kind of like some sort of tactic you can put in play that when the ball's in a certain area, one of the wing backs comes in, or Eric Dyer comes forward, or Kulusevski or someone comes back. And I think there needs to be something to it, just because I do think that Højbjerg and Bentancur have done a very good job. I've got a little bit of an observation I've been making. I think Bentancur sometimes dawdles on the ball a little bit too long. I think he's a little bit too casual on the ball when he doesn't need to be. And that's a bit of a concern. But generally speaking, I don't think the overrunning in the midfield is because I don't think I put the blame at Højbjerg and Bentancur. I think against Wolves there was just like 6 men in midfield at times. They were just so interchangeable and fluid. And when you've only got 2 men doing the job, and Emerson and Sessegnon or whoever it was, hanging out wide, I just think it's a natural consequence of the.
And we thought against Forest they actually played quite well, despite not having very many touches or very much of the ball. It felt like they didn't really put very much of the foot wrong, if you ask me. Bentancur and Højbjerg.
It's not just that with Bentancur. I completely agree with you, Sean. He's a bit lackadaisical sometimes in the middle and loses it, and looks like laziness sometimes. It really does. But I think
overconfidence or something.
Yeah, maybe it is that. But sometimes Bentancur, I think he's got such quality in his passing ability and such quality in his athleticism. I think he needs to be driving forward more and be a bit more forward thinking. I think most times than not, he just looks for that easy pass sideways or backwards. And I think that he needs a bit more adventure in his game because he's got it in his locker. We've all seen it before.
Yeah, we definitely we know it's in there. I'm actually interested to see Bissouma instead of Bentancur, especially if we went with the 3-4-3 yet again. It'd be interesting to see how different he is to Bentancur, because I imagine he'll be taking up the exact same positions as Bentancur does. He'll be playing sort of his role. Højbjerg will continue to do what Højbjerg's been doing, maybe dropping a bit deeper alongside Dyer. It will be interesting to see how he compares to the likes of Bentancur. Perhaps will look better. Perhaps will just look a bit different. But does anyone see a 3-5-2 perhaps being used in this game? Anybody thinking, it might be different from the 3-4-3, or we're going to stick with that?
Don't change a winning team.
I can't see it. Yeah.
Alrighty then. Well, Dave, any last thoughts on the midfield here? Midfield issues?
Yeah, I do want to say, look, I think to back up what I say about the possession, when you see Højbjerg having to drop out at times, dropping in beside Dyer, and they're pushing Ben Davies on further was not being put out quick enough, and they're then counteracting that and putting Højbjerg in that position and pushing Ben Davies on. You're at times you're leaving Bentancur in the midfield up against 3 or 4 men. Now, if we've got to get Langley in there, we've got to get Romero in there, and you will see a much competent Tottenham. We can't keep relying on Højbjerg having to drop in so deep sometimes beside Dyer in second halves of games or stuff like that to pick up the ball and move it because Davies can't do it. We've got to stop with that. Once you see Langley and Romero in there, you're going to see a much improved Tottenham on the ball. You're going to see a much improved midfield. And I even think you'll see us dominate midfields.
Yeah, absolutely. Last question of the evening here, lads. Last sort of tactical question here about Conte, and perhaps, an interesting one to end on because it's more, again, asking you to be psychologists here. While a lot of fans, they do enjoy progressive, expansive, very attractive sort of football, perhaps with these sort of performances, maybe we're forgetting that Conte maybe prioritizes sort of winning at all costs, maybe being a bit similar to the likes of Jose Mourinho. Ben, is that sort of, click with you if by the question, something, with Conte that we're forgetting, that he does want to win at the end of the day, even if it is an ugly win, he'll enjoy it just as much.
Yeah, and I think Kulusevski said it in an interview recently, didn't he?
Right.
That he said that Conte doesn't care about it's not like he doesn't care, but Conte prioritizes winning over anything. And if that compromises the style of play and the way we play our football and how pretty it is on the eye, then so be it. And I think Jose Mourinho was exactly the same. And I think in terms of mentality, they're both winning managers. They both got that mentality that I just want to win. I don't care who it's against. I don't care what competition it is. I want to win. And that's the kind of mentality that we need at this football club. So it's completely welcome for me.
It is completely welcome. But do you feel like it's a bit similar to Jose? Is there a bit of a Jose element in Conte? Is that perhaps a similarity between the two, Ben?
I think the mentality is, I think the mentality is, like I said before, they're both complete winners. They're both winning managers, and all they want to do is win. And if it compromises the way we play our football on the eye, then so be it. I really don't care. As long as we keep winning, this is the main thing. And if the problem comes is when we play this kind of football and don't win, like what happened after that, was it the Liverpool game under Jose? We were playing dross football and getting dross results. And that's where the problem comes. If we're playing dross football and winning, then nobody's going to care.
Yeah.
Do you agree there, Sean? Is he have some similarities with Jose, sort of win at all costs?
Yeah, I think he said something else as well, didn't he? Or somebody, like, I'm not sure if it was him who said it or someone said it. Yeah, I think he also said, if you can't win, then just make sure you don't lose, right? So
yeah, he did. He said that after the Brighton game last season when we lost in the last minute.
Yeah. So I think if it's clear that performance is secondary to outcome, which is great. And like Ben said, it works until if you play Nuno ball. I don't know if Tottenham fans would have not that we're doing that, but if you played Nuno ball and we won 1-0 every single game, and we won the league, I think people would tolerate it. But the very second that you start to lose, if you're playing poor football and you don't get results, then there's meltdown. So, but I don't think that happens with. Like I say, I don't think that happens with Conte. I think at the moment we're figuring out our new style for the new season, and we're not quite hitting into. I just think it's a case of being in second gear.
Yeah,
we have seen under Conte we can play good football and sexy football. We did that for 4 or 5, 6 games on the bounce in the second half of last season. But yeah, I do think that Conte prioritizes output over performance.
The inspiration behind the question. Ben. Yeah.
No, sorry. I was just going to say the fact of the matter is that Nuno ball at the start of the season was nowhere near. You could see it at the time. It wasn't sustainable. That Jose football was a bit different. I think that if things didn't go the wrong way for us that season, we could have had a much better season.
Looked good until October.
Yeah, it looked good up until head started dropping for some reason or whatever. I can't remember
the Liverpool game, right? It was the Liverpool game when we lost in the last minute. Yeah, and after that we just fell apart. Yeah,
but I felt like that football kind of was sustainable. But I think the football that we're playing now is like very sustainable because we're not conceding shots on our goal, and like I said, all the reasons that I said before, creating so many chances in games.
The inspiration behind the question sort of came from, when I've been watching, Lego Man's All or Nothing, all of that has to do with accepting, embarrassing defeats, in that pursuit of the football project, in that pursuit of the journey. And Conte sort of seems to be in the exact opposite camp of that, where he would much rather just grind out a 1-0, get a 1-1, have a 0-0, then lose 4-0 and sort of learn from it, I guess is, how the Lego man likes to look at it over there. I don't know what Dave thinks here, but that's sort of the inspiration behind this question, is that Conte is very different, sort of different maybe from these modern managers that are all about the projects and whatnot.
Look, Conte's a win at all cost. If we want the players to go and play sexy football and press like we did under Pochettino, then go and get the players in to do it. We do not have the players to do it. So Conte is adapting and working with what he's got. Look, you've got to question, why have we played the way we have under Nuno, or under Jose, under Nuno, under Conte? Because we do not have that backline like we did of Jan Vertonghen, Toby Alvarez, Walker and Rose to keep that solidity there. We don't have that. We don't have the players or to play the nice expansive football that everybody wants us to play. And Conte's not going to sit here and set us up in a system that he thinks will not yield the results week in, week out. Conte's here to win trophies. Look, no matter, forget what's come out the last few days from Conte's mouth. Behind the scenes, in his mind, he believes he can catch Man City and Liverpool, even with what we've got now. And if that's his way of doing it, that's his way of doing it. And I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. You've got to accept that the state that this club was in terms of where it was heading, we had to get more or less a whole new squad, even in terms of backups and stuff like that. We had to completely rebuild the scouting department. We had to bring in someone on the football side of the business, and that is going to take time to build. And I'm willing to give Paratici and Conte that time to be able to build that. Rome was not built in a day, and Tottenham will not be built in a day either. So in order for us to get to playing that sexy football, you've got to bring in the players to do that. Look, I have no doubt next summer, centre-back, ball-playing centre-back, who's good early, will be brought in here. I have no doubt another right wing-back will probably be brought in here. You might even see another centre midfielder be brought in here. But right now, this summer, it was about filling out that squad before you can start looking at and identifying individual places to replace and bring in 60, 70, 80 million pound signings and all of them for the quality that we desire, because that's the money it's going to cost. So for right now, Conte has looked at his squad, he's analysed it, and he's come up with the best methods in order to keep us tight in the games and back us to go and win the games. It's a bit like what Jose Mourinho, you look at the back line, it's like, ooh, that's average. So I'm going to set my team up to protect that back line. But then when he looks at the forward line, he's like, fuck me. I mean, honestly, God has answered all my prayers. I've got Kane, so now I've got Kulu. There's more than enough there to go and take the chances that we create. And I think Conte has found a good balance of keeping us tight while also creating chances, in my opinion.
I kind of agree there. What makes probably Conte quite unique, at least in my eyes, is that he'd probably rather win 2-0, 1-0 in the ugliest sort of fashion possible. He doesn't probably believe in, I guess we call them humbling defeats or sort of wake-up call, sort of defeats. Obviously, we saw Man United have, the best example of one in the case of Brentford. It sort of feels like Conte would avoid that at all costs. Like he would rather have 10% possession, win on some set piece, sort of goal like West Ham, and then, just sort of get out of there, talk about it later, sort of kind of guy, instead of just going through all of that, perhaps in the pursuit of something better. We've seen, the Lego man discuss that, those sort of defeats are, good learning moments for them, to be able to progress further on. But he's going to, at least in my eyes, seems like the exact opposite sort of mentality with that. He would rather just, get the result, talk about it later, perhaps fix it on the training ground. Doesn't want there to be some, living mistake, there in front of, the fans or in front of, the players, it seems like. But,
yeah, look, we just got to keep winning games. We just got to keep winning games. Chelsea have dropped points today. Liverpool or City will drop points again in the future. We've just got to keep winning games. And if this is the way we're playing to win games, look, I'm not ecstatic about the football. I would like it to be more glamorous, but at the end of the day, it's effective. And one thing I hate losing more than anything one thing I hate doing more than anything in the world is losing. When we lose, I take it out on the missus. I get tick. I don't want to speak to anybody. It's affecting my mood for the whole week. When we win, I'm in a great mood all week. So I just want to keep winning. So long may it continue.
And the missus gets braised beef.
Yeah,
long lay it continue. Long lay it continue.
Long lay is the only way it's going to continue in a long lay.
You know what it is, though. You know what I think. a lot of the fan base's like reaction is at the moment. I think they're looking at what Arsenal are doing at the moment. They're seeing them play well. They're seeing them have an unbeaten start, a winning 100% start of the season. And I think that's giving them a bit of anxiety, thinking, oh, look at what Arsenal are doing. We need to get our shit together. And I think that a lot of Spurs fans aren't concentrating on ourselves instead of looking on outside. And I think that's what we need to do. We don't need to care about what Arsenal are doing. Arsenal have just got that guy in the midfield from Ghana. I'm not going to mention his name on his channel, so I don't want to get you demonetized. But he's injured now. El Neni's got a long injury now. Let's see how they respond to that, because they didn't look very good against Fulham last week when he was injured.
No, they did not. But they celebrated like they won the Premier League band nonetheless, despite not looking very good.
Let them celebrate.
Dark Sun G saying Blues dropping points left and right now. Let's beat those Hammers. Also, I hope Newcastle gets a result against Liverpool. I hope we can score 3 to 5 goals versus West Ham. Weirdly, they've been high scoring games though, actually, not at the London Stadium, at least from what I recall. I don't think the London Stadium games have been too high scoring, but the ones at Spurs' actually have been, pretty good games, at least goals wise. I don't know, lads. Do we see this being a high-scoring game? Do we see this being a low-scoring one? West Ham, they really like to sit in. They play very defensive. It seems like it could be a 1-0, 2-1, sort of situation. But it has been high-scoring in the past.
Couldn't care less.
I'm feeling the same as you, Jack, man. I'm feeling the same as you. I think it's going to be won by the odd goal, maybe a 2-goal. West Ham are really struggling for goals at the moment. They've scored 1 goal this season, and that was a deflected goal last week from Fornals. So...
Form goes out the window, though, doesn't it, against Tottenham for West Ham?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. 100%. They're going to come out like prime Real Madrid or something tomorrow night. But if you're going to go just on the form that we're seeing this season, they're really struggling in front of goal. And like I said, 1 goal, just a deflection. Spurs, on the other hand, we're not struggling for goals. We're creating at will. It's keeping them out on the other side that's going to be our issue. And if West Ham play like they have been all season, then we should have enough to win this one. 1 or 2-0 in my opinion.
Hopefully a bubble on the score sheet for them. What do you feel like, Sean? Is it going to be a high scoring game, low scoring game? How do you see this, unfolding, prediction wise? Because as much as I see it, being low scoring, kind of like Ben, Dark Sun G has a point, with it being kind of high scoring in the past.
Yeah. I don't know. To be honest, I don't really care. I just want the 3 points. I think it will be.
Considering what we were just saying with Conte, win at all costs. Maybe not
win at all costs. I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham got a goal. Like they often do against Tottenham, and I don't know, people like Jared Bowen. I don't know if he's even fit, but if he is, then he's always a threat. They have got threat. Yeah, they have got threats up front, and they're a decent team, a very decent team. They're good from set pieces as well. Traditionally, with the big man Souček, they can. We're obviously weak traditionally from set pieces. Traditionally, although we've got Villa now, so maybe that's not going to be the case so much anymore. So I don't know. I can see West Ham getting peppering our ball from free kicks or from corners, whatever, and peppering our goals. Sorry, from free kicks or corners. Yeah. I can see them getting a goal, but I think Tottenham will win. I think I've gone for 2-1. So.
Yeah,
2-1 Spurs.
I like that, Dave.
Yeah. Better not speak, Jack. I'm censored this week. But no, honestly, for me, look, I'll give them. I won't give them credit. Look, they settle for set pieces. They're probably a richer version of Burnley, if I'm being honest. They probably might cause trouble from set pieces. They are decent from set pieces. Mikel Antonio always scores against Tottenham. I think he's got 12 goals in London derbies, and 6 of them are against Spurs. They've also won the last, I think, 2 up there at the track and field stadium. Let's not call it the London Stadium. I mean, there's a track around it. You probably see the 500-meter sprint going on, followed by a marathon tomorrow while the game's going on. It's really a multi-purpose stadium. And for me, look, as long as the players walk out with swimming goggles on them, Jack, so they don't get the washing up liquid from the bubbles in their eyes, I honestly think be fine. I think we'll actually beat them. I'm confident for this game. I think the soap might do Harry Kane's hair a bit of good. I think that'll be looking mean. And for me, do you know what, Jack? I'm feeling confident tomorrow. I don't know whether it's because they wind me up, but I am feeling confident tomorrow. I think them hammers will be turned into rubber hammers tomorrow, Jack. And
the IrishHotspur derby.
Yeah, I think we win 2-0. I think Kane scores 1. I think Son scores 1. I mean, we probably do a lap around that running track to celebrate after, and then we get out of there and celebrate 3 points.
The only way
You
it's
know
not
we've
going
won
well
at
for
their
us is
stadium more
if
than
the
they
soap
have.
gets in our eyes, he said. The only way it's not going well for us is if we don't wear the goggles and the soap gets in our eyes. By the looks of it. Love it.
Are you talking about the
We've
bowling ground or their new Olympic stadium, Benji?
The new stadium, we've beaten them 4 times there. They've only beaten us 3 times there. We own them.
And you know what? They should actually be thanking us because we kind of gave them their stadium, you know. We kind of gave it to them. We didn't really want it. So they should be thanking us. They really should be. But Ben, if you're going to the game tomorrow, make sure you have your West Ham starter pack. Make sure you have the safari hat, the binoculars so you can actually see the pitch. You know, make sure you have a good day, my man.
Don't worry, I've got them ready, mate. I've got them ready. No, they should actually put them on the seat. You know how when you go to the theatre sometimes and you're in the back row, they actually put like binoculars there just on the seat. They should do that at West Ham. You know, it'll help everyone out.
Don't forget your swimming goggles as well, Ben. You don't want them
you don't want soap in the eyes. You don't want soap in the eyes.
And bring your toothpicks to start popping them as well. We need to see what's going on through the TV cameras.
Speaking of, sorry guys,
they do a great job at popping their own bubbles. Let's be honest.
Speaking about soap and bubbles, can I just pay whoever it was on your show last night who rechristened Davinson Sanchez as Purcell because he always brings the clean sheets? I think that is the greatest.
9 hours, bro. 9 hours.
The greatest nickname I've ever heard. Purcell at the back. We got Purcell.
It's from Patron to Purcell. Patron
you gotta get that into Spurs song sheet, see if they can create us a song out of that, you know.
Big up Dark Sun G. They are dropping points left and right. Hopefully Thomas Tuchel got the plane this time, you know, down there and you know is able to get the plane back because I feel like he's running out of excuses and maybe the grass was a bit too salty. Perhaps Ralph Hasenhüttl maybe, you know, is the suit. He loves those suits, you know, he does. Perhaps it was a bit too bright, a bit too flashy. I don't know. We'll see what the new Karen Klopp of the Premier League has to say. Big up Dark Sun G, my man. Appreciate it.
Big up Dark Sun G.
Tell you what, though, the longer it goes into the season, the more points Chelsea drop. How bad that result looks now at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah.
As well as even the Leeds one was pretty much as Leeds was away from home. Like they got run by Leeds. Like they really got absolutely smacked by them. In fact, like I said, it was such a good performance that all Americans, you know, all 350 million took the day off. We were all that proud of, you know, our compatriots. But we're reaching the end of the show here, everybody.
Can you see?
I said, you know, even 100 years from now, the Yanks, you know, they'll tell it as if there were only 3 players on the pitch, you know, and Jesse Marsh just leading them all. You know, we'll change the whole story. But we're going to wind down here, you know, plug the channels. Really appreciate you both coming on. Sean, Spurs Talk Show. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I guess I'd imagine most people would be familiar with my channel on here. Yeah, it's Spurs Talk Show. I do walks with my dog, and I do panel shows, watch-alongs, the whole shebang. Yeah, check me out, Spurs Talk Show on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
Very efficient again, Sean. You know, I'm liking this, you know, efficiency here. You know, I'm a bit surprised.
Well, I'm balancing it out because earlier on you asked me a question about Nottingham Forest, and I ended up waffling on about heat maps and twisted formations and things. So I'm trying to bring it back to. I'm trying to balance out my my waffle.
You're a pro. You're an absolute pro.
Your passport, Sean. I think you might have got a German passport or something. Too efficient.
Efficiency there. Yeah, absolutely. We are Tom TV. What's coming up? Any special shows of any kind people should look out for?
Well, it's just non-stop now, 2 games a week.
Yeah.
So a lot of shows all the time coming your way. The latest show is the Late Late Show with Brian Daigle and Brian Ireland. Tottenham on Tour take you through at 1 a.m. Pre every game. So that's been a bit of fun. And obviously the Harris Army have been strong on the pre-match pump-ups this year. So looking forward to more of them.
Love it. Absolutely love it. There you are. Well, Dave, passing it off to you now. I think, you know, pretty efficient show, you know, probably used that word too many times, but going to use it yet again. But wrapping up here, I've enjoyed it. Maybe a part of the drama, but I think we had good questions lined up today. The panel, I think, did a very good job, you know, carrying us through here. But yeah, Dave, off to you. Yeah,
honestly, first of all, everybody get over and check out flatcapeurotalk as well. Get over there, smash the subscribe button. Another good channel that Jacko runs there. But guys, I mean, it's like Christmas Eve. It's the night before the Irish Hotspur derby. So make sure you are up early tomorrow. Make sure you start blowing bubbles all around the place as well. And guys, make sure you tune into the channel at 3:30 for some pre-match build-up. And we'll be doing a watch along tomorrow as well. So that's what you have coming your way. I want to say a massive thank you to Jack for a host. I want to say a massive thank you to Benji and Sean. People really do like this panel that we roll out here every Tuesday, so you can expect that. And if it's not Benji, it will be Sim. By the way, I actually did miss arguing with Sim this week over, I think it was one of our defenders. I missed that this week. You know, he gets my blood boiled a little bit, Simeon does. I love that. But look, guys, make sure you check out Spurs Talk Show. We are Tottenham TV, flatcapeurotalk as well. Smash the like, subscribe. I want to say a massive thank you to you guys for tuning in, for smashing the like, subscribe, and helping the channel with your support financially. It's greatly appreciated. But get some sleep. Tomorrow it is like Christmas Day. The Irish Hotspur derby coming up. As always, come on,
you Spurs.
In Conte we
Spurs.
trust.
In Conte we
trust.
Bubble popping tomorrow.
Exactly.